You're welcome back to Morning Express. Now let's kick off with a news this morning about a possible replacement for the former Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Chief Uchenna Nnaji, who had resigned over allegations of certificate forgery. Now, it was quite a very big news at the time when these allegations were flying around, and after much pressure mounting on the minister, he decided to step aside and walk off the stage honorably. Well, there are some certain contenders that we hear are set to replace him, and joining me is Bitto back in the studio to talk about the possibility of a replacement for the resigned minister. What is your take, Bitto?
Well, it's quite interesting the way political dynamics shift, especially with representation in the Federal Executive Council.
Yeah.
Now, before Chief Nnaji resigned, he possibly from the angle of political settlements was representing Enugu in the Federal Executive Council meeting.
Yeah.
And I see reasons why this is coming up now because if you look at the situation as it affects the humanitarian minister who had to exit that office to take up the position as the APC national chairman in person of Professor Nentawe Yitwada.
Yeah.
Just about a week ago, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu nominated a possible replacement in Dr. Bernard Doro, who is also from Plateau State.
Yes.
So I believe in keeping with the APC's ground rule on replacing such exits in any particular office, that's the template Enugu is looking to adopt in this case. And it's quite interesting because a number of names have been thrown up. Two are former governors, two are technocrats.
Yeah.
I know some of the arguments when Chief Nnaji resigned his office was that whoever would be coming in should be a technocrat because it's an office that involves innovation, it involves science, and involves technology. So if I'm looking at the names thrown up, which I believe we're going to look at together,
Yeah, certainly.
For two governors, former governors, technocrats in terms of innovation, science, and technology, if I had a personal opinion, I would prefer technocrats to replace such a very crucial position in the ministry.
Before we talk about this technocrats, I think it's important to also name these two former governors who happen to be from Enugu State, and of course the minister himself who had resigned is from Enugu State. Is there a particular interest regarding the replacement having to be from Enugu State? Is this something you're privy to?
Yes, that's why I cited the Plateau State instance with the APC national chairman, who was formerly the Minister of Humanitarian and Poverty Reduction, who was and is from Plateau State. That position is the representative position in the Federal Executive Council.
Exactly.
And now his replacement now is also from Plateau State.
To ensure continuity.
Yes, Basa local government to be precise in Dr. Doro. Now, and I believe that's the template Enugu is also looking at it from. If Chief Nnaji haven't been or is from Enugu resigning that position, the possible replacement should follow that template too. And hence the reason why we're seeing these four names being thrown out as possible contenders to replace him. I know it's still at the lobbying stage. It's not concrete. The only one that is concrete now is President's nomination for the replacement of the humanitarian minister. But I see this lobbying happening before the president announces whoever he feels should replace Chief Nnaji. That will be pending the Senate's confirmation as well.
Well, these two former governors, from facts that we are seeing here, former governors of Enugu State include Sullivan Chime, who was governor, and also Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, who is the immediate past governor of Enugu State. And one person who, well, starting off with Sullivan Chime, well, some political stakeholders who cite his administrative experience and record in infrastructure development are tipping former Governor Chime, who served between 2007 and 2015. His supporters believe his return to national service should bring governance debt to the Tinubu administration. But Bitto, do you think that the former governor is now serving as Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology would quite suffice? Or are we just looking at a case of maybe just giving it to him to keep busy?
No, you know the case of the notion most Nigerians on the street will tell you that it's almost in tradition for former governors to be found in the National Assembly, particularly the Red Chambers, the Senate. I think it would be more befitting a position for him if he has any of such ambitions other than
to run for political office rather than a nomination for a ministerial position.
Appointment. So I think it's more befitting for governors, especially with their wealth of experience in that regard, But notwithstanding, talking about former Governor Ugwuanyi as well,
Yeah.
he was quite unsuccessful trying to toe that route in terms of contesting for the Enugu North senatorial seat. He's most recent because he served between 2015 to 2023.
23, yeah.
And if it's a lack of success in that regard that is making him venture into this nomination, I believe owing to the sensitivity of this ministerial appointment, remember, it's innovation, it's science, it's technology we're talking about, I would tilt towards the latter two who are more or less technocrats.
Well, Governor Bryan is right on your screen now. The former governor who governed from 2015 to 2023 is also believed to be interested in the position. Ugwuanyi unsuccessfully contested the Enugu North senatorial seat in 2023 and is reportedly seeking political re-engagement at the national level. You might also want to note that Ugwuanyi's 8 years in office were marked by a lot of criticism by individuals who felt like his administration was not really giving the people of Enugu State the dividends of democracy that they truly deserved. And that could have been the reason why his ambition to vie for a position in the National Assembly failed woefully. Well, talking about the technocrats, Bitto.
Now, one of the names I know is there's a Davidson on the one side. There's also a certain Dr. Bede Chukwekezie.
Yeah, Davidson and Nnaji, but
Yes.
but particularly for Dr. Bede Chukwekezie, who is, in my opinion, so far the youngest of all candidates, and also one who has, from what I've seen and observations, seems to be the most reliable, or the one that could fit into the position most perfectly, replacing former Minister Chief Nnaji as Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology. But for the two former governors, I really don't think this position should be something that they should be looking out for. Instead, they should go for an elected office in the National Assembly, whatever it might be.
If we were to borrow from the antecedents set by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, particularly with his preference of younger persons in ministerial roles,
Yeah.
I think the president has shown a patterns for having young people in such roles. Now talking about Dr. Bede.
Well, Dr. Bede particularly is a technocrat, like we had mentioned.
He's also had some London training.
Exactly, who is widely respected for his intellect.
Of interest to me, particularly, it was in 2019 when he
Yeah.
also nursed the ambition of being governor of Enugu State, ran under Abga at the time.
Yeah.
For him, I think if he gets nominated or is considered by the president, it would help in nursing that political ambition. Now he hails from Enugu West.
Yeah.
I think it's also important in terms of the sharing formula of the state to ensure that there is more or less equity in sharing these positions, and the state has an actual fair representation at the Federal Executive Council. Not to say that Mr. Davidson Nnaji is also not also a viable contender as well,
Yeah.
because as much as he's the youngest, the second consideration, if not Dr. Bede, would be Mr. Davidson.
Well, in essence, some of the characteristics that Dr. Bede has been described to have is intellect, which is something that is very important and essential when it comes to a very sensitive position like that, and a calm political disposition and neutral stance in state level factional disputes. This is somebody that has quite proven himself to be a man of the people. He has proven himself to be somebody who can operate at the top tier level and also have a deep rooted relationship with people at the grassroots. And that is what this sort of position is looking for. Somebody who will be able to pick out raw, unrefined talents from the grassroots, from the hood, from the neighborhoods, and showcase these talents, showcase these intellects and special young Nigerians on a national scale. And Dr. Bede, from records we know, has shown and proven to be the kind of person who is able to source and harness such potential.
But not to sound too academical here, I believe in replacing this minister who is outgone now, what Nigerians will be looking out for is, does his replacement have any question marks pertaining to their certificates?
Well, I wouldn't know that, but in your opinion,
Yes.
Are there any question marks?
No, that's why I cited the fact that he's recently obtained a master's. Looking at some of the data available to us,
Yeah.
a London-based trainer, his innovation would also come to bear in terms of being the one to galvanize the existing MDAs, either on the innovation, science, or technology in today's space. So it'll be interesting to see what fresh ideas he'll be bringing to bear in that regard.
Well, it's actually a doctorate degree, a doctorate in business administration, and is also a member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Development in London.
Exactly.
I don't
Just to
think
buttress the point.
I don't think there is any reason to be skeptical about his academic qualification or be wary of
Then that settles
a
it.
possible certificate forgery case like the predecessor in the person of Chief Nnaji, the former minister, had with the position. So I think when when somebody like Dr. Bede, whose academic prowess is
It's
out
not in
there,
question or in
is
doubt.
not in question, and it's out there in the open. If somebody like that takes up such a position and with the level of educational exposure, it will just be a perfect fit for such a position.
Now let's talk more about Davidson
Yeah.
Nnamani as well, because he's the second closest contender in terms of information available to us. With this lobby intensifying, I know, especially now that you just discussed the rejig of the service chiefs next, and the president's attention will be on his cabinet, noting that there is a vacant position.
Yeah.
I'm very sure that he'll be looking at the fine lines and listening to feedback from Enugu as to who best to appoint.
Well, particularly for Dr. Davidson Nnamani, let's have his picture on the screen displayed. We hear that he's an academic and defense strategist from Isuozo local government area in Enugu State, Enugu East Senatorial Zone, and has been mentioned among possible nominees. His professional background and contributions to policy research have earned him recognition within and outside the state. 4 contenders, Bitto, and the possibility of a replacement for the resigned minister. In retrospect, what do you think that the outcome of these nominations will be at the end of the day?
Now, it's quite interesting because when positions like this are open to the president's prerogative to nominate, there are more speculations. But once you start seeing print media dotting the fine lines and crossing the T's, you know that there might be certain issues to deduce from this. It was also seen in the case of the nomination of the INEC chairman. Now, at the time, there were names thrown about, but when we saw the deadline coming to when an announcement will be made, I remember the Daily Trust newspaper 48 hours before, they were quite clear in their headline story in saying that this would be the replacement in terms of Professor Amupiton. It was headlined there. Now we're coming to those closing days when the president will be expected to nominate, and we're seeing these names being narrowed down. And if I'm to fall back on my analysis, especially with one of them, a former governor, attempting to be in the National Assembly, which was unsuccessful, the other also expected to toe such a line, I think it falls between Dr. Bede and Dr. Nnamani. So it's a close call for now. We'll just keep our fingers crossed and see which way the president goes with this.
Well, certainly in keeping our fingers crossed, Bitto, I believe at the end of the day, it might just fall to the right candidate and the one whom I believe will be best fit for the position and who can connect leadership at the top and the people at the grassroots.